With Ancelotti's latest tweak to Fede Valverde's positioning, the Uruguayan captain was invaluable in Real Madrid's win against Villarreal. But as more injuries infiltrate Real Madrid's squad, don't be surprised to see zero consistency of Valverde's positioning in the coming matches. At least, that's what history would tell us. He's perhaps not as smooth in escape as someone like Modric when surrounded by opponents. He maybe can't ping a cross-field ball with the level of accuracy that Toni Kroos could. When it comes to his defensive abilities, he's perhaps not the most gifted within the Real Madrid squad. He may not be the golden standard at any given skill within the Real Madrid squad, except for maybe absolutely smashing the ball in from distance. Who can that dude ever smack that thing? But he's at least at a level in each of these categories where he can mix it up with the best in the world, which is something special in itself. I mean, look, Toni Kroos said that he was a top 3 player in the world a couple years ago. But when you think of someone who is the definition of a complete player, I mean, I don't know that there is anyone else who, in this moment in time, is a better example of that. I mean, just look at this meme. All great arguments have started with those words, eh? And for my final argument, look at this meme. But I'm serious. Be serious about this meme here and look at it. It's silly, yes. Ignore the part about helping in midfield because he is a midfielder. Maybe they meant in other areas of midfield that aren't his own. Maybe we should stop analyzing this meme. But the point remains, Valverde can cover, has covered, and has done so exceedingly well whenever Real Madrid has needed him. Valverde is a Madridista through and through. At 25 years old, he already has 270 appearances for Real Madrid at the senior level. He has evolved over the years at Real Madrid, and he's their most important player right now. Besides maybe Courtois, but this isn't a video about Courtois. I mean, I don't see Courtois playing multiple positions in midfield and sometimes on the right wing or at right. To understand the player that Valverde is now, we have to go back to his roots, and Fede was a lazy boy that didn't like running. Yes, this is true. The man who discovered Federico Valverde, Nestor Gonçalves, found him when he was just 10 years old and immediately snapped him up for Peñarol. Now, Nestor Gonçalves was the son of Nestor Gonçalves, the legendary Uruguayan player who won 3 Copa Libertadores with Peñarol, 2 Intercontinental Cups, and 9 Primera División titles during his 14-year career spent entirely with Peñarol. Nestor Sr. was the head of the scouting department at the time of Valverde's arrival, and from his office overlooking the training pitches, he could see 10-year-old Valverde playing and called his son, Nestor Jr., after the session. As told in a FIFA Plus article linked below, Nestor Sr. said, quote, "Did you see what a player that skinny boy is? We agreed in our assessment," says a smiling Gonçalves as he reflected on Valverde's performance. Gonçalves recalls that Valverde represented a role model of a kid with all the qualities. He had good coordination, wonderful technique, the intelligence to read the game, and a supportive family. And Nestor Jr. didn't hold back when praising Valverde from such a young age, nor try to hedge his bets when speaking of his potential, always maintaining that Valverde would go on to make a massive mark. Valverde had a dip in his trajectory, as everyone else had a growth spurt except Valverde, around 13-14 years old. Poor guy, he was excluded from growing. And he even failed to make the U14 national team, but Gonçalves called the coach of the national team and told him to have a friendly against the Peñarol boys who were not selected for the U14 side. Peñarol's rejects, which included Valverde, ended up winning 4-0, with Valverde being the best player on the pitch. He'd make every Uruguayan youth team after that. Now at this time, Valverde began learning from youth coach Chueco Perdomo how to be a center midfielder, as previously he would often play as a wide midfielder. Perdomo would play Valverde as a 10 behind the striker, where he learned how to play line-breaking passes, but still made him hustle all over the pitch to learn how to cover his teammates when they would advance, how to play the defensive side of the game, etc. Perdomo said that Valverde took to it easily and understood the game better than anyone, even the new concepts that he was learning. He would pick them up in record time. The problem was, Perdomo said that Valverde would complain about all the running he had to do, asking why he couldn't just stay up with the forwards and not contribute defensively. That is not the Valverde that we've come to know, right? However, the Valverde that we do know is absolutely a player that will work incredibly hard for his teammates and eat up the entire pitch. From here, as a 15-year-old kid who had just began playing as a midfielder about 1 year prior, he was brought up to Peñarol's first team. But before Valverde even won the 2015-16 Primera División title with Peñarol, Real Madrid signed Valverde as a 16-year-old, with Valverde joining the club when he was 18, which was actually only in about a year and 2 months.
Que una persona del Madrid me diga, estamos interesados en vos, no me lo podía creer.
Valverde first joined Real Madrid's Castilla in 2016 for a season, then went on loan to Deportivo La Coruña for the 2017-18 season. But by the time the 2018-19 season came around, Valverde began getting glimpses into the first team at Real Madrid, especially once Zidane returned in March of 2019. After starting just once in La Liga prior, Zidane started Valverde in 5 of Real's final 8 matches. Jump ahead just one season to 2019-20, and a 21-year-old Valverde had began starting more matches than he would substitute on in, more than doubling his minutes played and covering the defensive midfield position if Casemiro was unavailable, as Real Madrid won the league that season. Playing and training with Kroos, Casemiro, and Modric, he was learning every aspect of being a midfielder, adding on to the knowledge that Chueco Perdomo had imparted on him back in Uruguay. I mean, now he's playing defensive midfield as well. Not only did Valverde exhibit his ability to play deep in midfield or at the top of a midfield three, but he also would sometimes get deployed on the right, and in the next season, even as a right back. And not just in any games, but in the tail end of the season with Carvajal unavailable, he even started in the Champions League against Liverpool, helping Real Madrid to a clean sheet while playing against Andy Robertson and Sadio Mane. In the 2020-21 season, Zidane played Valverde as a central midfielder, attacking midfielder, right winger, right midfielder, and a right back. As this season, Zidane was changing formations quite often in order to cover Real's injury crisis. So he was kind of thrown all over the place.
It's a dream for Carlo Ancelotti because I can put this guy anywhere and I know he's going to cover a space.
With Ancelotti coming in, that trend continued and his dynamism helped Real Madrid win both La Liga and the Champions League in the 21-22 season, and he was even named the Uruguayan Athlete of the Year in 2022. But he was about to add something else to his game. I mean, how is that possible? The guy plays everywhere. He has a wide skill set. What else could he...
Valverde al arco!
Yeah, he started scoring. The guy whose previous goals record was 3 goals across all competitions in a single season, 40 plus matches, managed to score 8 goals by the time the World Cup break came around in 2022. Well-placed strikes low past the keeper, lengthy solo runs with a smash into the top corner on his quote-unquote weak foot, spinning, swerving volleys, more smashes into the top corner. I mean, he scored goals against Atletico Madrid and FC Barcelona. Then after the World Cup, he was Real Madrid's best player at the Club World Cup, scoring in the semi and then twice in the final. It was in this season, the 22-23 season, where Toni Kroos said that Valverde was top 3 in the world right now on Twitter, as the man was on a goal-scoring tear at the time, adding goals to his wide set of skills already. But then the goals dried up in the latter half of that season, and that continued into the 23-24 season where Valverde scored just 3 times, one of them being that stunning volley against City in the Champions League, so it was quality over quantity there. But again, the goals weren't something that were expected of him previously. They were just a nice bonus that took his overall contributions to a new level. And then again, when he wasn't scoring, he still provided this fantastic moment. Straight into the living room. Insane that he was able to hit that tiny target. Anyway, to start the 2024-25 season, Valverde is already on 3 goals after 12 appearances. And again, he has played in a few different positions. Everything at Real Madrid is unsettled, maybe isn't the best word for it, as it comes across a bit strong, but they're in a figuring out phase. Nacho and Toni Kroos have left, meaning the midfield has some figuring out to do, while the defense is without their greatest Swiss Army knife. While the left-hand side has some figuring out to do in the attack, as Mbappe and Vinicius like to operate in the same areas, and their partnership hasn't exploded yet, Ancelotti looked to Valverde as a goal-scoring sleeper against Villarreal, someone quite capable of contributing and scoring from the outside of the 18, but an untapped source. To aid this, Ancelotti said, quote, "We tested it this morning to free Federico from the edge of the box. I think we've scored 2 goals from there. It's a resource we have in the squad because we have players who strike the ball well. Vinicius, Mbappe, Bellingham, Valverde. We tried it and it worked well." He was technically playing in a double pivot to help out Camavinga, as Ancelotti himself said in that press conference, but Valverde was free to roam up the pitch further to get closer to the box. You can see it in his heat map comparisons. The outcome, a goal from Valverde himself and an assist to Vinicius Jr.'s goal as well. But in that same match came a massive blow to Real's backline. Dani Carvajal, unfortunately, will be out for many months with an ACL injury. Militão would be the next option, but he injured himself as well, meaning Vázquez will play at right back. However, there are many pundits and reporters who claim that their sources point to some minutes at right back for Valverde as well, another move to the back line. It's interesting to see how Valverde has gone from, the good boy amongst some mega talents who will play wherever he's asked to and do a good job, to still carrying those characteristics, but providing a good problem for Ancelotti. Now Carleto is wrestling with a new problem. Where other stars had been prioritized to play in their favorite positions to get the best out of them, now Valverde is showing that perhaps he shouldn't just be looked at as a jack of all trades that plugs holes when needed. Instead, he's someone who has the efficacy, who can have the impact in the goals and assist columns if he too is played in the right position. And not only that, but his leadership as well. Valverde is now the captain of Uruguay, taking over the mantle for Bielsa when he was 24. He's also the fourth captain of Real Madrid, behind only Modric, Carvajal, and Vázquez. He's gone from someone who is simply an important team player and a fighter to someone who is a leader through performance, a leader through his attitude, and amongst all of the star power at Real Madrid, deserves to be seen as a club icon in his own right. His adaptability will probably see him cover for injuries in the back line at some point this season, and yeah, that may lessen his impact going forward, but it shouldn't lessen how we see his influence over this Real Madrid side as a whole. I appreciate you watching this video, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.